Okay, just for the interpreters who are recording, please record not on the cloud, but on your personal computers. Thank you very much. Okay, now we can get started. Before we hand it over to Emily, I just wanted to hand it to Dora, who can introduce this meeting in the Let's Connect spirit and introduce our wonderful sharer, Emily, from the research team. So over to you, Dora.
Thank you, Jessica. I was in the French interpretation part. So hi, everyone. I am so glad that you are here. I'm so happy that you're here. And I'm Dora, for anybody that doesn't know me, and I'm part of the Let's Connect working group. I'm pretty sure I talked to most of you by mail or through like Telegram or during events. So thank you again for being here. And today's meeting or session is about participants or Let's Connectors who are interested in research skills. Emily here from from Wikimedia Foundation is going to devote the time today to present for you the research fund. And then the second part would be like an open discussion part where you can ask general question. And then after that first hour, we can go to the one-to-ones that were sent during the call. And I'm gonna reshare during the presentation links where you can register for the one-to-ones. So thank you. Back to you, Emily.
Great, thanks so much for the introduction. So I'll share the notes doc once again for anyone who's recently joined. So yeah, I'm Emily. I'm from the WMF research team. I'm the research community officer. So my role is focused on growing and supporting the global community of researchers working on the Wikimedia projects. So I want to give a huge thank you to Dora and Jessica for inviting me here today. And also a big thank you to Marty, who has really been a huge supporter of the research fund over the last year and has spent a lot of time helping us to develop this program. So thanks to all of you. So as Dora mentioned, this session is in two parts. So the first part I'm going to try to keep to under an hour, and this will be an overview of the fund. There'll be an opportunity for me to answer general questions that you have about the fund. And then the remainder of our time will be spent in optional one-on-one appointments that are 15 minutes in length that are with me. So if you have specific questions that you feel more comfortable asking in a one-on-one setting, this is your opportunity to do that. And if you're interested in an appointment, you can either sign up now or sign up sometime during the orientation part of our session today on the notes doc that I dropped in the chat. So there's a table for appointment signups where you can leave your name, your question, your interpretation needs. And these are in 15-minute increments, and they'll all be held in this Zoom room. So after the first hour today, we'll all exit the room. And then if you sign up for an appointment, just come back using this link and I'll be here and we can chat further. I'll also mention that if all of the appointment slots fill up or if you're unable to stay for an appointment today, there are other ways for you to book time with either myself or Pablo, who is another member of the research team who's helping us with the fund. And if you're interested in that option, I just dropped the link to sign up for a one-on-one appointment in the chat. So one more bit of orientation is that on this notes doc that I've shared, there's also a space under the sign up table for you to ask general questions about the fund. So I want this session to be as interactive and informal as possible. I'm really here to, I'm here for you to be a resource. So if you have questions along the way, you can either add them to the notes document, you can add them to the chat. You're welcome to unmute and ask them, whatever your comfort level is, and I can answer them as we go. So if there are no questions at the moment, then I'll go ahead and dive into our presentation. All right. So yes, we're talking about the Wikimedia Research Fund. And this is one of several funding opportunities that are organized by the foundation. So you may be familiar with the Community Fund or the Alliances Fund, but today our focus is going to be on the Research and Technology Fund, actually just the Research Fund, sorry. So this is the second year of the Research Fund. So I'll be sharing a little bit about how the fund was run last year and a little bit about our current grantees. And also talk about how we're running things this year. The Technology Fund is planned to be launched sometime in 2023. So at this point, I don't have further details on that. So the Research Fund is a collaboration between community resources and the research teams. And this is the first dedicated research fund as part of the new WMF fund strategy. So this fund is really intended to be focused just on research. So we're looking for hypotheses, we're looking for research-driven questions. We're really interested in looking at the methods that applicants are planning to use to address these questions that they're interested in. And our fund has two main goals. So the first is to expand, strengthen, and diversify the network of Wikimedia researchers globally. And the second is to fund research initiatives that support the Wikimedia movement and deeper understanding of the projects, decision-making, and building technologies for the Wikimedia projects. So we provide funding to individuals, groups, or organizations that have research interests on or about the Wikimedia projects. We are not discipline specific. So the research could come from the humanities, social sciences, computer science, education, law, etc. So you'll see in our first cohort of grantees, we have folks who are interested in using machine learning to facilitate translation of articles from one language to another. We have folks who are interested in education research and understanding how to improve training new editors. There are a lot of different disciplines that are represented. And again, we aim to support applicants who have limited access to research funding and are proposing work that we think has potential for direct and positive impact on local communities. So we fund in-depth research proposals that help to improve and expand our understanding of the Wikimedia projects, as well as their impact. Proposals can introduce technical or socio-technical solutions that can enhance the technology in support of the projects and advance the movement toward its 2030 strategic direction. And the fund, it's a 12-month funding period, and budgets can range from $2,000 to $50,000 US. So here's some data about our first RFP that was released last fall. So we had about 35 applicants from 23 countries. And you can see the different countries around the world that are represented in the applicant pool. And again, you don't need to be affiliated with a university or an organization or a fiscal sponsor to apply. So in our first round of grantees, we had individuals who received funding themselves. We also had folks who are affiliated with universities, research or cultural institutions, or Wikimedia user groups. So here's a list of our funded projects, and I also included the link so you can explore these projects on your own. I'll also make sure that you all have access to the slides afterward so that you can get these links a little bit more easily. So we have 8 grantees in our first round. And one thing that I'll mention too is that in addition to providing funding for projects, we're also exploring ways of offering different types of kind of professional development support to grantees. So for example, with our first cohort of grantees, they've had 2 check-ins with the research team at the foundation where they had the opportunity to ask questions, to share their progress, and also to learn more about the projects that each other are working on. The most recent check-in was held this week, and one of the things that emerged from there was a real interest and desire from the grantees to connect the dots among the different projects that they're working on and find ways that they can collaborate with each other to expand the potential of their work, and also ways that they can collaborate with
Y también maneras en las que se puede colaborar.
their
Os
research.
solicitantes dos fundos e outros pesquisadores.
So this really speaks to the community building aspect of the research fund. And this is something that we plan to continue with this first cohort of grantees. We have a session planned for them with their program officers in January, and we'll continue to offer opportunities for them to collaborate together, and also opportunities for them to share their work with the larger research community, either through Wiki Workshop, which is our flagship research conference of the year, or through our research showcase, which is a monthly opportunity for researchers to present their work to the larger community. So I showed you where the applicants came from, and now this is the geography of the grantees. So again, we have 8 grantees representing 8 different countries. And I'll share just a couple of the projects that might be of particular interest to this group. So one is based in Tunisia, and the research focuses on adapting Wikidata to support clinical practice using data science, semantic web, and machine learning. I just saw the comment in the chat about the meta link not working. So that's something that I'll check on and update if I need to. Thanks for flagging that. So this is work led by Hussamuddin, who's been really involved in the movement over the last few years. And you can see all of the personnel working on this project with him. And they're looking to turn Wikidata into a large-scale biomedical resource. So they are going to be importing information from PubMed and other journal repositories. They'll validate the information in Wikidata, and then they're going to have a community building component where they'll be promoting the biomedical applications of Wikidata throughout the Global South. Oops. Another project that I'll highlight is based in Chile. This is From the Media to Wikipedia, the relationship between Chilean media news and malicious edits made in the virtual encyclopedia during the social outbreak of Chile in 2019. So this is Carla's proposal. She's affiliated with the University of Chile. And she's looking to understand how Wikipedia content is accessed and influenced by current events, particularly throughout Latin America. And in turn, she's really hoping that her research findings will help the Wikimedia community, the community of editors in particular, help them to better respond to vandalism. So I'll walk you through our workflow for the research fund. This does vary pretty significantly from other types of funding that the foundation provides. First, we run an internal eligibility check. This is done by the research fund committee chairs as well as the grants admin team. And this is just to make sure that the applicants are essentially in good standing and that they can be able to proceed through the process. All of the applications undergo a closed technical review. So all of the submissions will be uploaded to EasyChair, which is a conference platform. And each proposal will be reviewed by 3 technical reviewers. And all of our technical reviewers are people who have really extensive experience in research on the Wikimedia projects. And then all of the proposals will also be uploaded to Meta. So they'll all be publicly available. and anyone from the public can comment on the proposals. There's then a series of technical review discussions, and this is moderated by the Research Fund committee chairs, just to get a better understanding for how the reviewers are evaluating the proposals. From there, there'll be a short list of finalists that is decided by the Research Fund committee chairs. And this short list then goes to the regional fund committees for review. And I'll talk a little bit more about what that review process entails in just a few minutes. After the regional fund committee review, there is a decision on the stage 1 applications. So far we've been talking about the trajectory of stage 1 applications. So this is a 2-stage process. In stage 1, the applications are very short. So we're looking for 1,000 to 2,000 words. It's really kind of like a letter of intent. It gives us a high-level idea of the type of research that the applicants are interested in, how they think it relates to the community, how they plan to share their work more broadly, either within their technical communities and also within the Wikimedia community. It also provides some high-level information about their planned budget and how they plan to use the funding and what methods they plan to use to address their research question. So after the Regional Fund Committee reviews the applications, there's a final decision made on who the finalists are for this stage 1 process, and that's made by the Research Fund Committee chairs. And those individuals who are finalists are then invited to submit stage 2 applications. And these are longer form submissions in which the applicants are able to delve into much greater detail about the background and the real needs for why this work needs to get done, going into more detail about the methods and the proposed applications of their work. I'll mention too, again, all of these proposals from last year are publicly available on Meta. So you can read through all of the stage 1 applications that were submitted, as well as the stage 2 applications. So you can get a sense of scope. So you can see the types of questions that folks are interested in, what fields of study they're coming from, and also get a sense for how involved the application process is. So from there, the stage 2 submissions go through a technical review, and then a final decision will be made by the Research Fund Committee chairs. So here again is the timeline. So we launched the call in September. We've been providing support through office hours starting in October and going through the first half of December. We provide office hour support in both English and Spanish. And I'll mention here that at this point, we can accept proposals in both English and Spanish. Our stage 1 application deadline is December 16th. So I recognize that this is very soon. So bear that in mind. There's a couple of weeks before the submission deadline. Again, the stage 1 application is pretty lightweight. And if there's not enough time for you to put together an idea for this round, we're hoping that we can continue this process in the future. So have another call for proposals next year. And again, if you don't have time to put an application together for this year, hopefully through learning more about the program today, you can also think about other ways that you can get involved in the research fund. So for example, once the proposals are posted to Meta, you could consider reviewing them yourself and providing public feedback. That's a really valuable service for the people who are making the decisions. So the initial eligibility check deadline is in early January. And then again, we go through the technical and community review processes, the regional fund committee feedback, and then the stage 2 submission and notifications. So talk a little bit more about how the fund is structured. I have mentioned a few times now the research fund committee chairs. So their main responsibilities are to develop the evaluation and review processes, to recruit the technical reviewers, to oversee the technical review operations, to coordinate the community and regional fund feedback, and make the final decisions on funding. So the committee co-chairs are Layla Zia, who is the head of research at the foundation, Mako Hill, who is a professor at the University of Washington. And this year we also have technical committee chairs. So these are comprised of Elena Simperl from King's College London and Erin Shaw from Northwestern University. So Mako, Elena, and Erin are all, they're all researchers on the Wikimedia projects. They've been in research in the space for a very long time. And they've also been really involved in different aspects of the Wikimedia community as well. So we're really glad to have them on board. And this shows, I think one of the strengths of the Research Fund is that this isn't just a WMF-led project, that we're able to, by bringing in Mako, Elena, and Erin, we're able to bring in another aspect of the community in the decision-making process. Okay, I'm sorry, I need to step away for just one moment.
No worries. Emily told us that her daughter is home from work, from school, so maybe she was going to be interrupted. So I can take this opportunity to see if anybody might have any questions or comments that they want to say whilst Emily returns. Everybody's deep.
Sorry about that.
Okay, we're back.
We're good.
Good. Okay, over to you.
Okay. So now transitioning into talking a little bit more about the regional fund committees and their role in this process. So they provide feedback on the short list of top ranked proposals that are selected to advance to stage 2. And the types of feedback that are really valuable from the regional fund committees have to do with information about institutions or the applicants, opportunities for collaboration with existing projects or initiatives in their region that the regional committees may be aware of, but the technical reviewers may not be aware of. And also any comments about the budget based on, again, local knowledge of the region. So that was a lot of information. So I fully recognize that, and I anticipate that we'll have a lot of questions. So I've factored in an opportunity for us to do a little bit of collaboration. So I have a Jamboard link that we can go to, and we can drop it in the chat for you. So hopefully you can all access that.
A lot of people are writing on the notes. So I'm going to copy from those questions and put them in the Jamboard.
Sure. Let me take a look at the notes. I'm going to stop screen sharing for a moment, so I can only look at so many things at once. Okay, so I see a question about whether applications can only be in English and Spanish, and if we accept Google Translate. So at this point, we are only accepting applications in English and Spanish. If there is a special case where someone is not able to provide a proposal in one of those 2 languages, I would say please reach out to me and we'll see what we can do to accommodate that. We can accept Google Translate, and I would say, sorry, I'm providing our email address now. This is the best way to get in touch with the Research Fund co-chairs and myself. So again, if you have an extenuating circumstance where you cannot submit in English or Spanish, reach out and we'll see what we can do. But we can accept Google Translate. And I would say include in your proposal if you are not, if English or Spanish are not one of your primary languages, and we can certainly take that into account and pass that on to the reviewers as well. So I'm seeing the other questions that are in here. Is there a fixed standard for setting objectives and reports? So if I'm interpreting that question correctly, it sounds like, is there like a specific format that the applications follow? And if that is the correct interpretation of that question, the answer is yes, particularly for stage 1. So when you sign into EasyChair, you'll actually see the different fields for the questions and what the character limits are for each one of the questions. And actually, it might be easy enough for me to share my screen and show you what the application looks like. All right, that's going to take me a minute to figure out, so I'll come back to that. Okay. Okay, so let's see. Another question is, I'm very interested in this fund, but unfortunately it is too late for me. Maybe there will be another session. So at this point, we only have the capacity to run 1 request for proposals per year. Part of it is that this is a new program. This is only the 2nd year we run it. And also we have a very long review process. So going through all of the stage 1 and stage 2 reviews, it takes about 4 or 5 months. And so maybe in the future, we might be able to run multiple iterations per year. But at this point, we can only do 1. So I would say, if it's too late for you to submit a proposal this year, there are some other ways that you could consider being involved with the program. One, again, is to comment on proposals that are submitted. And another is to see if there are other folks in your region who are submitting proposals and if there would be an opportunity to collaborate with them if they are funded. The eligibility criteria, that is a great question. We can certainly walk through that. I'm going to share my screen again. Okay, so hopefully you can all see the eligibility criteria. So individuals, groups, and organizations can apply. Any individual is allowed 3 open grants at any one time. The request for funding can be anywhere between $2,000 and $50,000. Our funding periods are 12 months in length. So you should plan for your proposed work to start no sooner than June 1st and end no later than May 31st, 2024. That being said, we understand that extenuating circumstances can arise that cause people to need to increase the length of their funding period, and we can handle those on a case-by-case basis. So grantees must agree to the reporting requirements, be willing to sign the grant agreement, and provide the foundation with all of the information that we need to process the funds. We expect all of our grantees to adhere to the friendly space policy and the Universal Code of Conduct. Again, we accept applications in English or Spanish. And unfortunately, we cannot fund individuals who have been an employee or contractor at the foundation in the last 2 years. If anyone has had an advisee-advisor relationship with one of the committee chairs or someone on the research team, if anyone has been a current or formal collaborator of the research team, or if anyone has co-authored a paper with one of the committee chairs in the last 2 years. And this is all on our meta page, which I'll drop into the chat. I see that there's another question coming in, so I'll give that individual a moment to finish writing it out. And while they're doing that, I'll share what the submission form looks like on EasyChair, since there was a question about the format. So this is for the stage 1 application. So EasyChair, again, it's a very commonly used platform typically used for conferences for folks submitting abstracts, but we're co-opting it for the purpose of collecting our research fund proposals. So we'll ask for your name, your email address, your organizational affiliation if you have one. If you don't have one, that's fine. You can just write not applicable. We ask for usernames if you have them. And again, if it's not applicable, that's fine. Additional project personnel. So this is optional as well. So if there's anyone else who would be working with you on the project who are not helping you to write the grant. So this might be volunteers that you anticipate who would be working with you, or advisors, just so that we get a sense for who from the community and what other researchers might also be working on the project. We ask for a project description, including your aims and your approach. The approximate amount requested in US dollars. And again, this can be an estimate at this stage. We ask for a budget description. So this would be a short description of what you plan to spend the money on. And some of the things that you can include in your budget are salary. You could include publication costs. You could include if there's technical capacities that you need. If you plan to travel to conferences or to travel to get your work done. Those are all things that you can include in the budget. If you have specific questions about what can be included, you can email us. The impact and relevance to the Wikimedia projects. So this includes how your work relates to the 2030 strategic direction, or how it might support user groups, affiliates, or developer communities. Your plans for sharing your work with other Wikimedia and scholarly communities, and also your prior contributions. So what are your prior research contributions, or how have you previously, or how are you currently being involved in the Wikimedia movement? Do you do any work in the free culture space? So this is kind of an open spot for you to, talk about why you're well suited to be able to lead this work. Yeah. So that is what our application looks like. And to submit your application, you will need to sign up for an EasyChair account, but it takes just a few minutes to do that. Now see if any other questions have come in. Okay, you mentioned that individuals, institutions, or organizations can apply. I want to find out, in the case of individuals, how do you go about transferring grants to applicants? So that is a question for grants admin. Yeah, I'm not the best person to answer that question. So I don't know if Marty, if you want to jump in and answer at a high level, or if you have, I can also follow up with you over email afterward if you leave your name, if you want more information about that.
Hi, I'm happy to speak to the question. I'll just say to everyone, since I've already told Jessica and Emily, my water heater is broken and I have work people coming in and out of my house. So I'll try to answer one of the questions I can, but I actually missed the question. I'm sorry about that. But if you will repeat it, then I'll see if I can answer it.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Marty. So the question is, you mentioned that individuals, institutions, or organizations can apply. I want to find out, in the case of individuals, how do you go about transferring grants to successful applicants? Is it through a personal bank account?
Yes, it would usually be through a personal bank account. But I believe there's other options that the grants administration team can consider. But the personal bank account is the most common.
Great, thank you. Okay, another question that we've had, if people have research ideas but don't feel they have the capacity to run the research themselves, what do you recommend? What types of partnerships should they seek? That is a really great question. So actually the next part of our exercise will be doing some brainstorming about questions that you think are really important to the movement. So we'll have a chance to explore that in a few minutes. But there are some other things that I'll mention too. And that is, we're really thinking on the research team about how to help with networking and capacity building. So we're thinking about how to connect researchers to each other. We're also thinking about how to connect researchers with affiliates and developers and other aspects of the Wikimedia community. So a couple of ideas that I have for you, and I'll leave some notes in the doc, but the research team runs a lot of outreach events during the year. So we have monthly research showcases, which give an idea for the different types of work that folks are doing. We have a wiki workshop every spring, which is a really interactive event to learn all about ongoing Wikimedia research. We're also going to get involved with the hackathon, both the standalone Wikimedia hackathon and the one that will be presumably part of Wikimania. So these are all ways for folks to begin thinking about building relationships with researchers. The other thing I'll mention too is that the research team is working this year and into next year on developing a course for WikiLearn. It's geared toward folks who are new to Wikimedia research. So if you're saying that you don't have the capacity to run the research yourself, if the issue is technical capacity, that's one way that you could start to build technical skills. And the ideas that I mentioned earlier, if you don't have necessarily the time capacity, then there are different ways for you to build your network with researchers and others in the space so that you can collaborate together. Yeah, depending on where you are, another thing that I'll mention too is reaching out to local universities and seeing, what work is being done there. Are there students or faculty that might be interested in, working on projects or working on research related to the Wikimedia projects. So those are some ideas. And again, this segues nicely to the interactive exercise we'll be doing. And the last question is, do all the projects have to have a direct relation to the Wikimedia projects? And the answer is yes. So all of the research needs to be somehow directly related to one of the Wikimedia projects. So it can relate to, Wikipedia, it can relate to Wikimedia Commons, Wikidata. So I really encourage you to take a look at last year's applications, particularly the ones that were funded, so you can get a sense for how their work relates to the different projects. I'm also looking at the questions that were added to the table. And one of the themes that I'm seeing is, what are the best ways to present ideas for a successful funding proposal? And my advice there is to, again, look at the previously funded proposals, take a look at what they're interested in, how they presented their ideas, and really think about how your work relates to the Wikimedia projects, how it relates to some aspect of the Wikimedia community, how it relates to movement strategy, and what is the potential impact. So those are some things that you should be thinking about that are all components of the stage 1 application. So another question that just came in through the chat is, does it have to be popular Wikimedia projects alone? They've seen a lot of research focusing on Wikipedia and Wikidata alone. So it doesn't necessarily have to be on a popular Wikimedia project, although I'm not sure how you're interpreting that. But yes, there can certainly be, we have funded research that focuses on Wikidata or focuses on one language edition of Wikipedia. So it doesn't need to focus on, the whole breadth of projects. Oh, yes. So definitely, thank you, Jessica. The work can definitely focus on smaller language Wikipedias or smaller projects. And actually, one of the things that we include in the RFP is a real encouragement for folks to explore the smaller language editions of Wikipedia. So that's something that would certainly be eligible. Yeah, I see a hand up. Bukola, did you want to unmute?
Yes, I want to unmute. Thank you. Sorry, I just have this clarifications that I needed to do, especially regarding the different research titles that I've been seeing, mostly focusing on Wikipedia and Wikidata. So, like, I was thinking about some other Wikimedia projects like the Wikiversity and Wikibooks. So I felt like the research gap, especially regarding the use of Wikiversity among students in higher institutions, should also be looked into. So I don't know if this can be like a kind of research that one can come up with, and I also would like to know, like, what is the what's the level of acceptance for such kind of research proposal? Because looking at the fact that most of the previous research proposal that have been funded were mostly focusing on Wikipedia, Wikidata, and language wikis. So I would like to know, like, what's the probability that if one is going to come up with a research that focuses on the use of Wikiversity, Wikibooks, and some other OER that are very important to students, like, what's going to be the probability that these kinds of proposal will be approved? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for your question. I really appreciate it. So it's really hard to talk about funding probabilities because there are so many factors that are involved. It depends on how many applications come in and what the applications look like. So that in and of itself is hard to speak to. But I will say that if you're interested in a smaller language Wikipedia, or if you're interested in a smaller project, as long as you have a research question that is associated with that, I would say it wouldn't be at a disadvantage as compared to as compared to proposals that are focusing on other Wikimedia projects. Yeah, if you're interested in a smaller Wikimedia project, it would not put you at a disadvantage in and of itself. But really think about your research question and think about how the work has potential to impact the communities that are using that project. So hopefully the answer helps. All right, so I think the questions have settled out. So why don't we transition to the Jamboard? So I'll share that link again. Oh, and I already see some activity there. This is very exciting. Okay. I just shared the link in the chat. Oh. Okay. So we'll start with this first question of what research questions do you have and who might you partner with? So again, this relates to that really great question we have about what do you do when you have a really awesome research question, but you don't have the capacity at this point to carry it out? So let's brainstorm a little bit about what we can do. So if you have research questions in mind that you want to share, please feel free to add those here. If you have ideas for partners, again, please feel free to add those too. And I'll give us a few minutes to work on that, and then we can come back and discuss. All right, so I think we'll pause here. And I say pause because we can leave the Jamboard open. So if any of you want to continue writing out your thoughts, I'll take a look at it and continue to contribute as well over the coming days. So just as a form of reflection, I see a few common themes, and I encourage any of you to share anything else that you notice. I see some questions about what do you do if you have an idea for a proposal, but you don't have proposal writing experience? A couple of recommendations that I have, and others are welcome to share theirs as well, is to again take a look at last year's proposals as examples, particularly the stage 1 proposals. There are questions that are high level. So they're questions that you should be thinking about as you're putting your thoughts and your proposal together. So things like, how does the work impact the community? I feel like that's something that you would have a lot of ideas about and be able to readily share. But looking at last year's proposals is a good starting point. And again, also trying to team up with someone who has maybe more research or proposal writing experience could be helpful as well. And this actually might be an opportunity where Let's Connect could be a real value, because I believe proposal writing is one of the skills that you can either share or sign up to learn more about. So this might also be an opportunity here within this community to continue to build your proposal writing skills. I also see some really interesting research questions. So I see a couple that are related to youth. So how do youth consume knowledge on Wikimedia projects? How can we make Wikipedia more accessible to students? So if there are, I don't know if those questions are posed by the same person or if they were proposed by 2 different people, but it sounds like if those are 2 separate questions, there might be some opportunities for collaboration there. And maybe thinking about some of the resources that the education team puts out as well, to help frame some research questions around that idea. I'll also mention that one of our current grantees is looking at how students and teachers in Estonia are using Wikipedia in the classroom. So I would recommend taking a look at that proposal as well. Let's see. There's another research question about how opening up library collections on Wikidata, what is the impact on access to these resources or library use? That's another really interesting question, where if you team up with someone in the GLAM space, I think they could provide support in thinking about how you can go about answering it. There's also some interest in understanding more about knowledge gaps. And I shared a link where you can learn more about the knowledge gaps research that's happening by our team at the foundation. So I think that this is a really great starting point. And I would encourage you to use this Jamboard as well as a Notestock to start sharing ideas with each other, maybe coming up with some informal collaborations. Is there anything that any of you would like to share in addition? I welcome you to either unmute or share your thoughts in the chat.
Hi, hello. Hi,
Yep, we can
hello.
hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Faith. My name is Faith Quera. I'm from Uganda, and I had a question. My network kept getting off and on, but I am here about mental health on women, especially who are affected with HIV response to Wikimedia. I would like to know how viable that is and what are the chances of its of the proposal being accepted. Thank you.
Yeah, so again, it's really hard to talk about the likelihood of proposals getting accepted because again, it depends on a lot of factors, mainly how many proposals we receive and the types of topics that are put forward. I will say that last year we had, again, about 35 applicants, and we selected 9 for funding. So it gives you a sense of how many we're able to fund based on how many applications we receive. So I would say, based on your question, if you have a testable question that you're interested in, and you're able to develop methods to test that, then I would say you can proceed with it. It's not my area of expertise, so I don't have a lot of ideas in terms of how to go about that. But yeah, let me think about it and think if there's some previous research on women's mental health related to the Wikimedia projects to give you some kind of avenues to think about. So thanks, I really appreciate your sharing. Would anyone else like to share? Okay, so with that,
Yeah,
I have,
before we
go ahead.
Yeah, before we actually proceed, I'd like an email, apart from Jessica Stephenson, who has been very helpful on the emails, and she's been very vibrant with all of us. Okay, with me, I would say. Is there like a coaching session for proposal writing, or I don't know? Please help.
Yeah, I can start to address that question, and I would encourage Jessica to chime in with more from the Let's Connect side. So from the research fund side, we don't have proposal writing clinics per se. We do have office hours. So if you missed the beginning today, there's opportunities for some office hours today after this general session. There's also an opportunity to sign up for office hours either with myself or Pablo, who's another member of the research team. And I'll drop that link in the chat in case you're not available today. And we cannot review proposals prior to them being submitted. But we can, if you have questions about the scope of work that you're interested in, or more questions about the process, we can answer those. And maybe Jessica, I don't know if you have plans for a proposal writing session as part of Let's Connect, but I would encourage you to share that.
Yeah, thanks for that, Emily. And thanks, Faith, for posting that really interesting research question. I think that's something very relevant for so many communities in the movement and for so many women contributors. So we do have proposal writing clinics, but they're focused more on the general support fund or the rapid fund. We could think with Emily of structuring one that's specific for the research fund, because as Emily has explained, there are very specific characteristics and both in how you present the research proposal, but also who you're working with and that the team has the right capacity to lead the research. So partnerships, as Emily has been saying, is really key. So maybe we could think of something specific along those lines. But I would definitely recommend talking to Emily either today or in the office hour, and I'm sure they could give a lot more one-on-one support and point you in the right direction. That's what I can say.
Yeah, thanks. And just to clarify, I don't think we would have time to do a proposal writing clinic for this year, given that the deadline is in a couple of weeks. But this is something that we can certainly consider for next year. So we really appreciate the feedback. And again, the research fund is really new. This is only our second year running it. So we're learning a lot as we go in terms of the different ways that we can support applicants. So all of this feedback is really helpful And it'll certainly help us to continue to iterate on our processes in the future. I see that there's a question about research to help the development of minority languages. And yes, that's something that you can certainly focus on. And I'll drop a link to one of our current grantees who's focused on work related to translations and how that can help to increase the content that is available in smaller Wikipedia communities. Let me find it. Here, I'll put it in the chat now. Any other questions? These have all been really great. I really appreciate how interactive this has been.
It's the Let's Connect spirit, Emily. We're a special group.
No, it's wonderful.
Let's Connectors.
Okay, so I will share one last slide with you all for some next steps that you can think about. So do look at our meta page where you can carefully read through our request for proposals. Certainly reach out to me if you have any other questions after you leave today's session. You can contact us at the Research Fund at wikimedia.org. So that will go to me as well as the Research Fund co-chairs. It'll go to Marty and Hen from Community Resources as well as Grants Admin. So you get a whole bunch of us who are looking at your questions and responding as best we can. I also encourage you to sign up for the Wiki Research L mailing list. So for those of you who have research questions, but you don't feel like at this point you have the capacity to pursue them on your own, this is really a great resource for you to, when you feel like you're ready, for you to post your question and start, seeking advice from others, thinking about finding potential collaborators. So this is a space where you can get to know the research community a little bit more and also learn about different types of events that we run during the year, where you can network with researchers as well. And that was everything that I had. So a really big thank you. And yes, I'll share the links in the chat as well. So again, it's been really wonderful to meet you all today, and I really appreciate your interest, taking the time to be here today, and all the wonderful questions and ideas that you have. And as I mentioned, I'll leave the Jamboard open. I'll keep contributing to it, and I encourage all of you to as well. I'll also leave the notes doc open for another day or so you can continue to add questions there, and I can actually go through and answer all the questions that have been left on the notes doc in writing, so that you can have those as a record as well. Yeah, and with that, if there's any final questions, I can take them. Otherwise, we can start transitioning to the one-on-one sessions. And actually, we're running about 15 minutes late, which I should have anticipated. Oh, and someone's already updated the table. You guys are so kind. Great. So I see that there's one slot still available for today. And again, if you're not available today, or if the last slot fills up, you can go to the meta page and sign up for office hours on a different day with Pablo or myself. So with that, I will stop talking. And again, thanks so much to all of you for being here, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Emily. This was such a wonderful space, and thanks to all the Let's Connectors here today. It's my happiest moment when we're together. So thank you very much. We will also be sharing recording of the session and the presentation on our Let's Connect channel and via email. So thank you. Emily, the one-to-ones are in a different link, right? So we can close.
No, it's the same link.
It's the same link. Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. It's just so that I know that I have to leave my computer open.
Oh, you could probably make me a host or co-host, and then you might not get trapped here,
Okay, and I'll stop
but I
recording.
don't know.
I'll make you host and stop recording.